When you're standing in a garage or a cramped workshop, the decision to add a workbench feels a lot like buying a piece of real estate. You want to be sure it actually fits the space, the job, and your budget before you commit. I'm going to walk through the Durham 14-gauge steel ergonomic folding workbench and point out the moments where it shines, the places it trips, and who will actually get their money's worth. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Most people buying a bench first think about the headline 14-gauge steel and assume every other detail will line up. The hesitation usually comes from two fears: ending up with a piece that's too bulky to store, or one that can't handle the weight of the projects you tackle daily. I've spent a few weekends swapping a folding table for this bench in a small hobby shop, and that experience highlighted both the hidden trade-offs and the practical benefits that you don't see on a spec sheet. In the world of workbenches, the real differentiator is how the bench behaves once it's actually in use. A solid top is great, but if the legs wobble when you lean over a project, the whole thing becomes a liability. Likewise, a bench that folds up easily can be a lifesaver in a garage where you need the floor for the car on alternating weeks. What matters most is the combination of surface stability, accessibility from both sides, and the effort required to set it up or stow it away. The Durham model takes a straightforward approach: a 14-gauge steel frame topped with a tempered hardboard, and legs that hinge directly to the top using full-length piano hinges. The absence of stringers means there's nothing in the middle of the tabletop, so you can slide a long board or a sheet of plywood across the surface and work from either side without bumping into a support. In my test, I used it for assembling a bookshelf, cutting a piece of inch plywood, and even as a temporary sanding station for a small tabletop. The steel top held up under the weight of a 30-pound drill press without any sag, and the hardboard surface resisted scratches from the sanding blocks. What really feels practical is the leg design. Each leg slides on a 1-inch center adjustment track, so you can raise or lower the whole bench by an inch or two to match a worklight height or to accommodate a taller partner. The hinges are welded, not bolted, which eliminates any rattling once the legs are locked in place. Assembly was literally a matter of unfolding the legs, snapping them onto the tracks, and tightening a few wing nuts. No screwdriver or wrench needed. After the first setup, the bench folded back down in under a minute, which is a huge win when you're moving from a project to a car wash in the same space. The downside shows up in the same places that sturdiness does. Because the frame is solid steel, the bench weighs close to 80 pounds out of the box. If you're the type who needs to lift the bench up a flight of stairs or load it into a trunk, that weight could be a deal breaker. The height adjustment is limited to a couple of inches. There's no mechanism to bring the surface up to a standing desk level, so taller users might find themselves bending more than they'd like after a few hours. Also, while the piano hinges keep the legs aligned, they don't lock in a way that prevents a slight wobble if the floor is uneven, a common scenario in older basements. I placed the bench on a concrete slab that had a small dip, and the legs on that side leaned just enough to make a faint tapping noise when I pressed hard on the edge. If you're a DIY enthusiast who works on a few projects a week, need a bench that can survive a decent amount of load, and have limited floor space, this Durham piece is a solid match. It's especially handy for hobbyists who switch between woodworking, electronics, and small-scale metalwork, because the open top lets you slide in a large workpiece and the folding legs free up the floor for other activities. The tool-free assembly also means you can set it up in a rented garage or a friend's shop without needing a full toolbox. On the other hand, professional contractors who rely on integrated vices, built-in power outlets, or a height-adjustable hydraulic lift will probably find the Durham bench too basic. If you run a full-time carpentry business and need a bench that can hold a table saw, a router, and still have room for clamps and a storage drawer, you'll want something with a heavier-duty frame and more built-in accessories. Likewise, anyone who lives in a high-rise apartment and needs to carry the bench up multiple flights should consider a lighter-weight aluminum model, even if that means sacrificing the 14-gauge steel rigidity. From a value perspective, the Durham bench lands in an interesting sweet spot. It's priced higher than the cheap plastic,